So for right now, I'm in a hypertrophy phase of my training because I just competed March 1st. My next competition will be middle of June. So the way powerlifting goes, we'll take time to obviously work on strength. Technique is something that we're working on continuously, but there's a time and place for strength and a time and place for hypertrophy, AKA muscle building periods. So right now, we are in a muscle building period, building a little bit more endurance with higher reps and a little bit lower weight where we increase the volume each week. So 1 week I'll have 3 sets, the following week maybe I'll have 4, next week I'll have 5, so on and so forth. So it's increasing, my capacity for that workload is increasing, and the weight will be going up a little bit each week as well. Right now I have about like 6 sets of 6, let's say, for whether it's front squats, deadlifts, bench. So that'll be increasing throughout the next couple weeks as well before we get into a strength period. In the strength period, the amount of reps I'll do is probably anywhere from 1 to 5. So right now in my programming, we are doing a lot of front squats and we're doing a lot of high bar squats. The difference between high bar and low bar you'll see a lot more in powerlifting because you're able to put the bar lower on your back and carry more weight that way. High bar is where the bar is more upper on the neck. High bar works more of your quads and your abs. So working to be more upright is the goal with high bar, as is with front squats as well, because you're carrying the weight here and it takes a lot to be stable as you're coming down into the hole. And that is something that we're working on with this period right now, is my ability to keep my core tight and working on strength in my quads. Because right now I have pretty big quads, but they're not as strong as we'd like to be, and my quads are naturally big, so it's really just playing on that advantage. So when you're doing front squats, it's important to keep thinking about elevating those elbows, because when you let this drop, then you're coming forward, and that's where the weight's gonna go. So keeping your elbows up, keeping that core tight, and keeping them up throughout the movement. And the same thing goes for high bar as well. When you have the bar on your neck, you're keeping your elbows close to your body, and you're keeping that weight up, and continuing to brace and keep your core tight, and trying to stand straight up out of the hole. So the next workout I'm going to talk to you about is the belt squat. The belt squat is a really valuable workout to use when you are trying to either build size on your lower body or even strength. This is an easy one to set up. There are some gyms that have these belt squat machines, but you can set it up in your own gym by using some boxes like the ones that I have here, and an easy little belt that is used for dips. Most commercial gyms have these. And what you do is you just put this around your waist. You put the weight through so that it's hanging, and you go to town. This exercise is really beneficial because it helps to take your back out of the equation. So it saves your back from being super exhausted, and you're putting more of the emphasis on your quads and your butt. What I like to do, and what I like to tell my clients to do, is really over-exaggerate that lockout. So you're squatting into the weight, so the weight is going towards the floor, and then when you come up, you're really bringing those glutes through, kind of making a really dramatic hip thrust movement. And that's really squeezing your glutes and getting your butt cheeks working. So that is a really good exercise to use, whether you're trying to build strength using more weight and less reps, or you're trying to do more hypertrophy with many reps. Typically right now, I have in my program about 4 sets of 12 to 15 reps. So the weight there is it's moderate. Still getting that burn with all those reps, but it's not super heavy. So for deadlifts, when I compete, I usually do SUMO deadlifts, which is when your legs are out further. And this is just more for my build. My arms are really short and my legs are stocky, mainly with the short arm thing, because with conventional, you have to lock out a lot further. The distance is greater from the floor when you have short arms like that. So when you're thinking of conventional deadlifts, it's way more taxing on your back than sumo deadlifts are. They're both pretty equal in difficulty. Sumo is just as technically difficult, but with conventional, it's really important that you're keeping your core tight to protect your back, and you're trying not to round. So when you're coming to the bar, you're setting up, you're bringing your shoulders back and your chest up. I like to tell my clients to imagine that somebody's going to tickle their armpits And so they're protecting their armpits, which means they're closing them, which helps to make their lats tight when they're beginning to pull. So I tell them chest up, lats tight, or protecting your armpits, and that's when you initiate the pull, is right there. Another thing with the deadlift, whether it's conventional or sumo, like I will talk to you about with the belt squats, is making sure you're bringing your hips through really tight. So over-exaggerating that hip thrust a little bit to squeeze those glutes and get those hips through. So making that really dramatic, just really pushing those through. That's where a lot of people fail. That's where personally I have some weaknesses, because my glutes are weaker than my legs, is just bringing those hips through. As soon as you're breaking the bar from the floor, popping them through. And that's not to say that we're leaning back or we're rounding. We're just bringing the bar up straight and locking them through real strong. So this exercise that I'm going to talk to you guys about is the barbell hip thrust. And I specifically use these a lot in my program just because my glutes are weaker, so I'm emphasizing squeezing them at the top and being a lot more powerful when I'm extending through the top as well. What I have here is a pad just because as a female, my hip bones are really prominent and the bar digs in. I would never use this on a squat, but with barbell hip thrust, just because it is pretty painful to have that bar on my bone there, it's helpful to keep that there. So let's start. I recommend this exercise for women to build their glutes and their hamstrings. I like this one moreover than using a leg press machine because it's pretty easy to set up, and I think that anything that you do with a barbell is really beneficial, a lot more than using a machine, because you're directly doing this yourself. This one is really beneficial for your glutes and your hamstrings. Another thing with the pad, if you don't have one like this, if you have a yoga mat, you can take this and you can wrap this around the bar if you're like me and you have really bony hips. So easy peasy. This consisted of belt squats, front squats, barbell hip thrusts, and deadlifts. These exercises are great for women who are trying to build lower body strength and get more comfortable with barbell movements. If you follow these, you'll get some strength, you'll get some size. I hope you enjoy it.